Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle, Desrochers, and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for the last 4 years. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much and would not want to do this without you. Also, thank you to Justice Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his music, his time, and his voice for the intro that you just heard. Justin is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. I mean, all, and probably and some. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in, I had a real moment with that word there. Anyway, specializes in the Halloween genre, does phenomenal commission pieces, books, graphic novels, you name it, he does it. So, news, I guess I'm supposed to have the podcast awards coming up. I'll try to get to a couple of those clips as we get towards the end of the show. Also, check us out now on Amazon Alexa. So essentially, we know we're on Amazon Music under podcasts, but now all you have to do essentially is say, Alexa, United Public Radio, and bam, everything will come up. So that also new and a lot of fun. I've been having a little bit of toying around with that. So tonight we welcome the return of Margie K. You guys will remember her a couple months ago. She was here talking about winged cryptids and such. We had a lot of fun. And tonight she brings with her two amazing men, Mill. So we've got Bill Spicer, Wayne Lawrence, and they're going to be discussing their new book, Fast Movers, Evidence of High-Speed UFOs and UAPs. So looking forward to this because there is so much about this, or has been so much talk of disclosure that's gone on now for the last probably 2 to 3 years at least. It's just been up and down. A lot of questions. Some people don't believe they're here at all. Other people believe, yes, they're absolutely here. And this is one of those nights where we're going to talk about evidence that UFOs are among us and that there's proof of it and that there are ways of capturing them. Not literally, but through, video or still cameras, and of course, remote viewing. We've talked about that several times. So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up with that, and we're hoping that moving forward, we're going to actually see the government, the military, and Pentagon move forward with this. So many countries have disclosed for the last few years. I know the retired defense minister, Paul Hillier from Canada, who's deceased now, but he was a big advocate of all of this, and he talked about it quite avidly. And he was really one of the go-to people of his time. And we have great researchers in the field who are also advocates for it. And I'm sure it has its pros and cons, and maybe it's something that we'll be able to discuss tonight. So we're just waiting for one more guest to pop in, and then we will bring everybody out and get our discussion going. And the guest host tonight will be Joe Montaldo. He will pop in just because we are talking about, Tic Tacs and so on. And Joe served on the Nimitz, and he's got some pretty wild stories himself. But tonight is not about him. Not that we might not be able to stop him, but we'd like to definitely get him talking about it, because he will definitely be able to relate to all of it and may have even been witness to some of it because of the timing of these experiences. So let's see. Tonight, guys, we're streaming on Facebook, The Outer Realm, UFO Paranormal, CMH, ICAR. And as far as YouTube goes, we are on The Outer Realm, United Public Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, and of course, Roku TV, where you can always find us. And that's where you will find our some of our archives probably within a couple of days. It take a while to upload. So without further ado, hey everybody, nice to see you all chiming in. Sherry, sorry. I've been binge watching since I saw the interview with Karen Swain. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And guys, hi Michelle, hi Z-Sun, hi Johnny. Wow, thank you guys for tuning in. I know we're just starting. So I'm going to bring our guests in now. We're going to start with Margie. Hello, Margie. Oh, Margie is still down. So Bill and I are here.
Hello.
Hello, Wayne. We don't have you on camera yet. Margie, hello.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you,
Hello,
darling?
Margie.
Hi, Bill.
Oh,
Hi.
there we go, guys. Welcome so much. Oh, Bill's gone.
Must
Okay,
be some
what's
tech
up?
problems.
Yeah, that's okay. You have some time. You can fiddle at your end, and we'll bring you in as soon as we have you. Or if you prefer, we could just go with audio, whatever works easier for you. And what I want to do right now is show off your book. There it is. Fast Movers, Evidence of High-Speed UFOs and UAPs. So I have been looking really forward to this. And you guys have just your write-up, of course, on the back of the book makes it even that much more exciting because it reminds me a little bit when you're talking about being able to teach people how to find this evidence on their own. It's sort of different than the CE5. Everybody's all over it, so you know the interest is there, right? And
Oh, yeah.
this is
Yeah.
just right without having for people who are skittish. This might be something that eases them into it. Photography.
Photography is it. That's everybody has a cell phone. It's that easy.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
that's what I use now. I started with very more expensive cameras, but after about 15 years, I transitioned to my cell phone, and I get fantastic photos, as Margie can attest to,
Right.
that I've sent her way to look at, and to Wayne also. So
Right. She has sent over 3 photos. So whenever you guys just prompt me when you want to put them up when we
okay,
get there, that is fine. So we're
okay.
still waiting. Wayne is still, I guess, on and off. So we'll wait till we know we have him. But let's start off with what first off, what were your first experiences? Because you're investigators. I mean, Margie, you've been on the show, so I know how deep you're
Yeah.
into all of this. Bill, how about yourself? What
Well,
prompted you to
I
get this experience?
well, they woke me up. That's
Oh,
basically what I tell people. I am a near-death experiencer as an early adult back in the 70s. And after that experience, I became much more aware of what else is out there. I mean, I could remote view. Didn't know what it was at the time. I would find myself doing it, and out of those experiences, and then after a while, I just, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. And in 2009, they woke me up, literally in dreams, using lucid dreams. And I had already had sighting as a teenager with another group of adults and my best friend. Um, so I had seen a craft at night. That's what I call them, crafts.
mhm.
I'd seen a craft at night land in front of our car on a highway here in Kansas, and it came down, and we had to stop the car. And the next day, nobody else remembered the event but me. So that's how my strangeness started as a teenager.
That had
And
to have been a
I
little
don't
bit
normally talk
awkward.
about that, but that's an important benchmark as a
Yes.
teenager. And from there on, it's come forward, and then the near-death experience kind of locked everything in place, and I was pushed back into the body and said, "No, you have to return." I remember hearing the voice, and I'm not superstitious, but it happened on Friday the 13th. And I got stung by bumblebees, over 200 bumblebees,
Oh my
when I was
word.
in the summer when I was working as a land surveyor. So that's when everything started to really start to come together. And then in 2009, they knocked on my door basically while I was asleep, and I had a series of dreams. And then they showed me how to see. I was shown how to do this with the polarization of light.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
that's how I got introduced into this. And I it's I find it hard myself sometimes to I have to put out the message to them. Hey, I want to see you. It's really that simple.
It really
And
is, isn't it? Wayne,
yes,
welcome. You
yes.
made it.
Hi, Wayne. Hi,
So
Wayne.
so how about yourself, Wayne? What got you into the field and connecting with Bill and Margie?
Well, I saw my first few UFOs within just a couple months. One night I've always been interested in astronomy, and I was just looking out the window one night, and I saw something that was really kind of unusual. So I got some binoculars out. It was a good pair of binoculars used for looking at the planets and so on, stars. And by golly, they were blinking in a triangular fashion. But at first I saw just focused on one. Then all of a sudden I realized there was a whole cloud of them, all doing the same, whole cloud of these triangles doing the same thing. Well, anyway, that was what kind of really got me into it. And then a couple of months later, I had a sphere just rise up outside of our living room window above a tree line and just stay there for about 2 minutes. And it was one of the brightest things I've ever seen. It's about the brightness of a sparkler on the 4th of July. And what was interesting is that you had these rays coming out that you could see coming all the way around that came to a point, and you could actually see it like it was right there in front of you, like a real thing, but it instead of just light, and it was so spectacular. I just my jaw just dropped. Eventually I got hold of myself and took some video and then a few snapshots. But by then I was hooked.
It does change you, doesn't it? Having your first experience, that one that you can be aware of. Margie, how about yourself?
Well, for me, I started seeing these flits of light or a glimpse of an object that would appear and disappear, or appear in one part of the sky and then in the other in half a second. And it took me a while to figure out what I was seeing. And then when I met Bill quite some time ago, he showed me some video of what he was getting in the sky, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's what I'm seeing." But with the camera, and then you slow down the camera, you can see it much better. So I was seeing it with the naked eye, but also by remote viewing. And Bill and Wayne were capturing them on camera, and then we all got to talking about this, and I said, "You know what? We really need to write a book about this together to explain how we each discovered this in different ways."
I think it's fabulous that you all agreed to do this together, because it just adds so much validity, to the stories, because I mean, there are a lot of experiences. I'm an experiencer. I can't tell you how many I've seen. I grew up north, North Canada, back in the time where there were no satellites. You know, I'm aging myself a bit with it, but there were no satellites, so I knew when something went across the night sky and there wasn't, you know, the city lights, that there was definitely something there. And but you meet all kinds of experiencers, but when you are able to collaborate and bring them together, people look at that and say, "Wow, look at these similarities." And they start to see it, and maybe it prompts them to perhaps come forward with their own stories. Like, did you find that since talking about your experiences together or writing the book, that more people are approaching you and saying, "Hey, you know, I can relate to all of this"?
Oh yeah, we started a Facebook group called Fast Movers, and that anybody can join. And so people are discovering this and they're finding out how to get video and stills, and they're doing it and posting their own. And some of it is just amazing.
You know, I was at a meeting of our Illinois investigators group, and this was then about 2, 3 months ago, and somebody mentioned that a term fast movers, and it was the first time I'd heard other people start to use it. So one way or the other, it's starting to percolate, whether it came from us or somehow it's starting to percolate up as kind of a new thing, which is why we did it. It was such a new thing for us. You know, it wasn't your standard, oh yeah, we see that up in the sky. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you can only find them by going frame by frame, or
Mm-hmm.
as I can do, and that Margie can do probably even better, seeing them with her eye,
Mm-hmm.
to make that distinction, which most of the time most people can't, because they're traveling in less than a second across the
Mm-hmm.
screen.
Absolutely. I think if it's really bright out as well, like, you know, during the day, it is really hard to catch a glimpse. They do go by really quick. You know, some of my best sightings have been at night, obviously, because it catches your eye when something's moving. During the day, not so much. I mean, we've had things float right over the vehicle. Like, you know, a couple of those have happened in the middle of the day where we're just kind of like, you know, one was just like this little hexagram shaped thing about this big, and it just floated over it. We're just like, what?
Wow.
I know. And one looked like a flying Chinese lantern, only it wasn't. It was just this glowing, crazy thing. It had no specific shape to it, but you know, it's the only way to describe it, how it was moving. So I think people second guess what they see.
Yeah.
And maybe
Well,
that's part of it, Bill.
yeah. Yes, that's part of it. I've had experience with coworkers, people I've worked with over the years, and I've taken them out to the parking lot during lunchtime and tell them we're going to do this, and I show them the method, and I can point due north sometimes just to get away from the sun, the angle of the sun, and something will show up. It usually does. Um, and some things for me now, they'll just sit there in the sky. It's like being looked at or watched. That's what you kind of, the psychic aspects of it.
Right.
They stop. I've had them stop,
Do you
completely
feel they
stop.
want you to notice it? Do you think it's their way of saying, "I'm here, pay
Yeah,
attention"?
it's their way of saying
Ah,
that I'm here.
right,
Yes,
right.
I believe that's the biggest part of it is I'm here. I've actually put out a thought. That's how I do this when I want have them to see or
Mhm.
me to see them.
Right,
And sure enough, I'll always get something.
right.
It never fails anymore.
So ask and you
And
shall
you
receive, basically.
yes, yeah, I call it it's like precognition a little bit because I kind of know uh, at least an hour or two before. Oh, I need to go outside this afternoon or this evening and do this. Um, And I guess I can bring this up. I've actually caught video of things that look like what I have in the daytime with my night vision IR video in great detail.
Hmm.
I've caught things, and you can superimpose or put them side by side, and it looks exactly like what's appeared over my house, just sitting there during an afternoon. I've got that now that I've been able to save, and it's all with night vision. Uh,
Mm.
and I've remote viewed inside the craft. I've been able to step back and look at the photographs, and then I can do a remote view on it. So yeah, I know who's in it.
Right.
I've actually seen them. Uh,
Right.
I don't know
And
if we want to get into that
of course
aspect,
we
but it
do.
might be interesting. Oh, you do?
Of course we
Okay.
do. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So who did you? I mean, grays, tall whites,
No,
humanoid.
they they I've seen three different things, and I've got actually some photos of what I've seen. They've appeared uh, within the photos. You
Mhm.
can see that, like in an orb of
Mhm.
light, you can see the being inside it. If
Right.
you go back and look at it
Mhm.
closely, you can see the figure.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, and during the remote view, I'd say the ones that I've interfaced with the most are very tall white energy beings. That's the best description I can come up with.
Right.
Uh, that
It
showed
sounds like
me
the
how
light
to
beings
do
that
this.
so many people talk about. They're just these
Yes,
light humanoid figure, but just
yes.
solid light. Yeah.
And I was in a and that was in a lucid dream. When I started waking up, they approached me three times in three dreams, and then they showed me the process. After I got over the initial surprise, oh, you're on our craft, like remotely. It's like remote viewing. And since then, I have remote viewed back and was told I had a complete OBE experience, out of body, during the remote viewing, and I actually engaged two of the beings. One was a tall, the same white robe, but I could see the head and the
Mhm.
face, and it had feminine energy. It was a female,
Mhm.
and then there was a male that was about my height, 6 foot, and it was in a uniform. It turned around and looked at me in the remote view, and then said, "Oh, you're here." I mean, I could telepathically hear it. Now, the tall one, uh, it asked me, "You're not," or told me, "You're not supposed to be here." And I said, "Well, I'm here to find out everything about you and your craft." So I started walking down a hallway, and
Yeah.
I walked down about 100 yards, and length of a football field. And I said, "All right, I've seen enough," and then popped back into my body. And after that, other things started showing up in the sky that I'd never seen before. So since then, that was 2 years ago when I did this.
Wow.
Since we put the book out.
Wow,
But
that's incredible. That's incredible when you can make contact. But it's what makes it more incredible is that they know you're there. You know, you think
mhm,
you're just I'm gonna pop in, scroll it. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
know we've
I
been
have seen
chastised for doing
humanoid.
that.
Exactly. That's what happened. And
Yeah,
I have had other friendly contact where they were humanoid, our scale, our size,
right.
um, and I'm the one that left the room before they came completely up to me and walked up to me because I said, "Okay, I've seen enough."
Right.
uh,
That's enough. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
yeah.
I am going to bring in my guest co-host this evening. Joe, you ready? Just nod if you're ready. Yeah, we're ready. Okay. Our grand poobah.
I'm not as cute as Amelia, though. I'm
No,
cute, but I ain't as cute as she is.
yeah, yeah, you're a lot hairier than Amelia, that's for sure.
Hey, 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 hey. Shh. Be telling
um,
people that.
Joe, this um Margie K, and we've got Bill
I
Spicer
know
and
Margie.
Kathleen
I've talked to
Lawrence.
Margie a few
Oh,
times over the years. How you
okay,
been, Margie?
Good. How have
wonderful.
you been?
Mhm,
Pretty good, pretty good. I know I look different tonight because I'm not on TV, but it's just strange.
mhm.
All
It's
my
Modest
regulars,
too. That's good.
mm,
So,
a lot of
but
my regulars have been writing to me, "What's wrong with your face?" I'm like, "Nothing. It's just my real face." They're just
right,
used to seeing something different. That's all.
buffered, yeah,
Yes, no, they're
yeah,
just no because when I'm on TV, they make me dye my beard. When I'm not, when I'm here with y'all, I don't have to.
normal. Well,
Anytime I'm like doing Netflix or something, they make me do it.
we thought it would be fun because we're going to be addressing TikTok, to a degree, and the Nimitz, of course, in 2004. Were you on the ship at 2004?
Who was on the ship at
You. I'm
2004?
asking you. Were
Oh
you
no
on the
no no no. I had a much better experience than they did. But I was where was I in 2000?
2002?
No, I was off the ship by 90 something.
Oh, were you? So you
Oh
had the
yeah.
experience in 88 then.
So the experience I had was when Ronald Reagan came on board the ship.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
so, matter of fact, I gave Stephen Bissett a heart attack about this. I was on his show, we were talking. He said, "Did you just tell me how fast the ship actually goes, Joe?" Not. I said, "Don't worry, it's going to retire, so you ain't got to worry about it." But no, I was on the Nimitz, and it was 83, 80. I think it was 83. If I was, I'm pretty positive it was 83, 84 when this happened. But I was a plane captain on board the USS Nimitz. I was sitting on the flight deck one afternoon. We were launching what they call touch and go all day long, all day long. And we got a siren to clear the deck and bring all our planes in. So we're bringing our planes in, and we kept getting the captain kept screaming at us about clear the deck, clear the deck. We still had planes out, so we couldn't. So finally, the last plane's in. We're sitting there. I'm sitting on the deck, getting him on the elevator while I'm watching. This thing came down, touched down on the front of the carrier. It was so heavy that the carrier did this.
Oh.
So this is a saucer, is what it was. It hung off both sides, and it just kind of dipped. So we were expecting to see Ronald Reagan come in from a plane, land, and oh no, he came off the saucer along with 3 other beings. They came walking off. They were met by security I've never seen in my entire life, and I got a Class 10 security clearance, so it's kind of weird. I haven't seen these guys before. It's they were met with them. They were brought to a special room. The whole time, finally, we get everybody off the flight deck, and because we're not supposed to see any of this. And what was funny about this is, so they cleared the flight deck, but they left the damn CCTV on, so we could see everything that was going on board the decks. So when you're in the area where the planes are parked in the hangar, we have cameras all over the place that monitor everything. So we're watching all this until he got into whatever room they went on board the ship. We watched everything that went on, and we watched everything that left. There was 400 guys seeing this, 500 guys seeing this. I don't want to say guys because it's men and women, but we all watched it. And it was so funny because about a week passed as we're getting ready to port. And I still remember this. The commander comes up. He said, "I need you to sign something before you get off the boat." I said, "For what?" I said, "My clearance is high as yours, maybe even high." I said, "Why I got to sign anything?" He said, "Joe, did you see it?" I said, "No, I only called." He said, "Did you see it?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." He's like, "Do you want to get off this boat or not? Sign." So we all agreed to sign a 36-year disclosure agreement. And when it ran out, I called my friend Stephen Bissett. I said, "I want to come out on your show and talk about this." So I did. And 5 days after that, I had someone show up at my house that made me sign a lifetime disclosure agreement.
That's why he's talking about it now.
Yes. So, well, no. So I was told that since certain things I'd already let out, that the genie couldn't be put back in the bottle, so I was allowed to talk about them. But any of the other details, because it gets way more in depth than that, we weren't allowed to talk about. Actually, they said of death. They didn't even say put you in jail. They said of just death. They were just very adamant about, because there was a lot of other things that went on that we got to watch and witness. And the fact that we seen a U.S. president there was flooring. I mean, it just took you aback. You're kind of like, what? And because our government really doesn't know what's going on when it comes to aliens. They know. I mean, I'm constantly getting phone calls from them. It's I spent 3 days giving testimony to Congress with a wired the whole entire time. I was wired to see. It always cracked me up. They wired me up for voice stress and for whatchamacallit, lie detector test. But Koresh comes in and says all kind of bullshit. They don't even bother detecting him because I don't think anybody actually believed the guy. That's why. But I spent 3 days giving. The first day was 17 hours. The second day was about 10 hours, and the third day was about 8 hours in front of Congress. It was nonstop. The lady, I can't remember her name, with the black hair, she cracks me up. She goes, "I really like you. You actually answer shit." I was like, "What do you mean I answer stuff?" She said, "No, you actually," she said, "Do you do research?" I said, "I have the largest UFO alien research abduction organization in the world by far." I said, "We got 60,000 members. We're not like MUFON." And I said, "We specialize in what we do." I said, "We're really looking for people who have had contact." I said, "We're never going to get to the truth by asking the government or chasing lights in the sky." Don't get me wrong. I like chasing lights in the sky because I see them all over in the South. So I like chasing them. But getting to the truth involves something much more intense than that. Uncle Sam only knows so much, and so much of that's compartmentalized. They're kind of stuck with what they can actually tell you. And that's why they're looking for people like us. Anybody who's had long-term experience or has long-term research, like we have 144,000 cases on file. Every one of those cases have been investigated. Every one of those cases is considered legit. So it's a little bit different for us when we look at things. We look at this from a different angle than most researchers do because we just simply have more material than most people do. It's just more sort of. So, getting back to the Nimitz thing, it was so weird because when they finally left, we're all sitting in the flight deck. We're trying to eat because nobody wanted to leave the hangar because we wanted to see what was going on when it came back out. So no one would leave the hangar. So as soon as this thing gets, they get in. We don't know where the president. Nobody sees him anywhere. They go back and get on. The three of them go back and get on their ship, and you feel this thing, this weird, almost felt like plasma all over thing. I mean, the monitors were going crazy, all the electronics were going, but it felt worse than that. It almost felt like it was crawling on your skin. It just was this weird. It's like sticking your hand in some type of electric field, but it doesn't actually shock. It was really, really weird. And then everybody hit the floor because when it finally let loose, the carrier actually bucked. I mean, that's how heavy this thing was. It actually bucked. The ass end actually came up and then dropped back down. This is the USS. This was, at the time, was the biggest thing we had afloat in the sea. And it acted like it was just a little popping cork to this thing. And it wasn't like this thing was as big as the carrier. I mean, it was, don't get me wrong, it was big, but it was big enough to hang over the flight line on each end. But the flight line at the front of the carrier is kind of small anyway. But it was just the mass of the thing. Whatever it was made out of is a material that we did not have on this planet. It was sheerly just, it was just so heavy when it let loose. And I still remember all the flight line people and all the because this is all the pilots talked about for the next 5 weeks. That's why they made us all sign non-disclosure agreements because it was everybody in the ship was talking. Everybody who's seen it, which like I said was 400 or 500 people, everybody was talking about it. And it's bad enough that we were getting constantly reports from pilots coming in and landing about what they seen. I have never interviewed a Navy pilot, or I'm sorry, any military pilot or any commercial pilot that has not seen a UFO, not one. And I'm probably somewhere in the 300 range now. I have interviewed a bunch of Mercury, Apollo, and Gemini astronauts and half of the shuttle astronauts, and not one of them has never told. All of them said, I've seen something in space. Every one of them.
But then doesn't it beg to differ? And anybody can chime in with this. When we talk about the Tic Tac, who do we think it is? Do you think it's...
Could be us.
Okay, what do you guys think? Bill, Wayne, Margie, just jump in anytime.
Dead.
Well, from
Well-
the descriptions that we hear about from the pilots in 2004, they were doing things that they knew that we did not have the capability, nor any other foreign government at that time had the capability. And not to my knowledge, we don't yet today. But be that as it may, they knew that this was beyond anything that they could put their finger on. It was totally unknown. So, I just have to go from what they saw.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff out there. So, like the Foo Fighters of World War II, we still can't reproduce. Well, that's not exactly true. Let me clarify myself here. A lot of stuff that the Foo Fighters did, we can do today because we have drones. We have drones that can fly around planes. They just can't achieve the speeds that the Foo Fighters did. I mean, they were gone, they were back, they were there, they were gone, they were back. I mean, they were instant, in less than a second, they were out of eyesight. So these are speeds that we're just nowhere near achieving yet. But the maneuverability our drones can actually do. So that's a little different. That's why I tell people be real careful these days when you're looking at the skies, because you'd be surprised how many drones are up there trying to fake people out. We see them all the time. We get them. We got this little gun you can shoot at something. It's basically a baby EMP is what it is. And if we think it's a drone, we'll point it at it and see what happens. Can't shoot at anything big. You don't want to get in trouble with the Fed or nothing. But you'd be surprised how many drones we've knocked out the air with this thing. Because people will fly a drone. They'll make it look like a saucer, and they'll put it up in the air, and they'll light it all up. And they'll go put it over a city high enough to that you can see with your phone, but you can only barely make out with the naked eye, and it'll look like a UFO. And, of course, people will report it as an alien spacecraft when it's simply just a drone. And whoever wrote me that, no, I believe that saucers and shit fly around the planet all the time. I'm just telling you to be careful, that's all.
Okay, but didn't Bob Lazar, right, in 2004, when the whole TikTok thing I think they were on like a Las Vegas news broadcast, and he came in incognito, but he's talked about working on air, UFOs, let's say. And then when the Tic Tac thing came up, he basically said, he goes, "Yep, that sounds about right. It sounds exactly like what we worked on."
Well, there's
Well,
no doubt that
Sorry, go ahead. Anybody?
there's no
Nope.
doubt that our government has reverse engineered
Yes.
things. I've spoken to people who've worked in the reverse engineering programs, and they have developed some of that technology, and no doubt they're using it. So today, it's much more difficult to determine what something is versus even 20 years ago,
it is.
where you could say for sure that something like that didn't exist. I mean, look at drones have only been common for a few years,
Mhm.
but and I've seen them myself, where they look like something else, especially hawks. I've seen 2 drones that look exactly like hawks,
Mm-hmm.
and we even had one of our witnesses here in Kansas City saw a hawk flying, and she thought it was unusually large, so she was keeping her eye on it. It morphed into a saucer-shaped silver UFO and then was gone in a half a second across the sky.
Crazy. Crazy.
So I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was one of ours or one of theirs, but there's just so much out there now that's very confusing. But one of the techniques that the 3 of us use is remote viewing to see what something is.
Mhm.
And I have actually been hesitant to look at the Tic Tac. Because I'm hesitant to look at anything that's top secret, government related,
Right.
military. I don't want any part of that. But
Right.
yeah, so
Exactly.
I'll stay away.
Right. Right.
Well, fortunately, they
we-
can't do me anything.
Yeah.
So good. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Well,
Bill.
we have in the book a side-by-side photo that came from 2004 from the released video with one of the craft that I saw uh, in 2012. Side by side. They're in black and white, so you don't get, even if you're colorblind, you can still see the differences. You can see the similarity in the shape.
Mhm.
And we also have other things that are published which don't look like Tic Tacs. They look even more, how do I guess for lack of better words, they look like something I could engineer easily.
Right.
But at the same time, I noticed something that's quite interesting, and I have talked to scientists, physicists actually, that these come in what we call tandem pairs. They'll fly together, and you can see the field around each one, and one's pushing the other, or vice versa. And there'll be 2 together, flying one behind each other. And they're not all identical, even the things that are flying behind each other. They're actually completely different looking objects, but one's pushing the other, it looks like. I've got all that on video.
Yeah,
I've
we
videotaped it. It's in the snapshots are in the book. It'd be great reading to have for anyone's archives in the book. It's all
Mhm.
shown there.
we've got a great video. Actually, we went out and standing inside of NASA territory when Stennis at NASA facility. Actually, when we took it, we were in the buffer zone, and a friend of mine said, "What is that? Is that a triangle?" So he's got the video. So you see a triangle coming by, followed by a saucer, followed by a F-18, just cruising along, right down the middle of the road, right into the NASA base. That's where they were going to the mainstream base. We've actually got, tells you how sloppy things are sometimes. We've actually got Google Earth pictures of 2 saucers sitting on the Stennis base, just sitting there. Because we scan anytime we can. Bases like that, we can scan without getting in too much trouble. Trying to do that on any big military base, nothing you can access will let you do it. And if you do get lucky, you're going to go to jail if they catch you anyway. So, but stuff like that, you can see them. You get some good pictures. Like I met Senator McDonald, not McConnell. People don't get confused. He's not an idiot. Senator McDonald used to be in charge of appropriations for all top secret stuff for the U.S. military. So he was driving through New Mexico one evening, and he saw something fly over his car. And he wasn't sure what it was. So somebody told him, somebody who worked in the government told him, well, I've heard Joe talk about these before. Then he gave me my name. The guy calls me, and I got to be honest. I'm not going to say how I said it because it's nice public TV here, but I was just like, no way. There's no senator wanting to talk to me. It's absolute, you know what. So this went on for about 6 months, and I got a vanilla envelope with a picture of his congressional ID and his driver's license. And I was like, then I still said it was bullshit when somebody called me. I said, there's no way this guy wants to talk to me. There's nothing I can offer this guy. Nothing. I mean, this is guy's in charge of all top secret stuff. Why do he need to talk to me? So about 6 months passed. I hear a knock at my door. Open my door. There's two guys standing in black suits. I'm thinking, oh shit, the man in black just showed up. I'm thinking I'm dead at this point. I'm not even kidding you. I was panicking. I was like, oh, what did I do? And then there's a big black window limousine out there with all the windows tinted out. He said, I want you to come for us. I'm not going anywhere with y'all. Matter of fact, I was reaching inside to grab my gun. I said, I'm not going anywhere with y'all. And the door opened, and there, sure enough, there's a senator sitting there. And I'm like, so I went and got in the car with him. They served us lunch in the car, which was interesting. And he tells me, he goes, I was driving home one evening, headed home, and I seen this black triangle thing flying over my car. And he described it as a TR-3B. I had no doubt what it was. No doubt what it was. And he said, this is alien, right? I said, no, this is ours. And he's like, no, Joe. If this was ours, I'd know about it. And I said, well, obviously you don't. And obviously it is. And I went through the whole type of drive system, everything it had with it. And he goes, that's impossible. I would know about this. Could you be wrong? I said, I'm pretty sure we're absolutely right about this. So he said, if I ever find out, I'll let you know. 6 months passes. I get a vanilla envelope sent to my house that's this thick. The complete diagrams of the TR-3Bs in it. Type of drive system it works, type of engines it uses, type of systems that hold up air, type of inertial dampeners, type of gravity fields it uses, whole 9 yards. He sends me this lovely letter with, I don't know how you found out, and I hope there's more of you out there because this was blankety. He went on for like 10 minutes cursing. He said, I should have known about this from day one. He cut their funding. That's what how he found out. He stopped everybody's funding from his office until he found out what it was. And Area 51 had no choice but to tell him what it was.
So is that what everybody's, would people see triangular?
Well, there's a couple types of triangles.
All over the world? Like,
so the ones they saw in Belgium were ours. The big ones are not ours. There's one that was sighted over an island in Tampa, Florida, that was bigger than ours, about 2 miles across. That's not ours. We don't have the technology for anything 2 miles. Maybe a blimp. I don't think we have that kind of technology. We just don't have the technology to put something that big in our skies just sitting there. It's just not something we possess yet. And a couple of those, there was one seen over one of the Belgium cities that was actually bigger than the city itself. That's not ours. As a matter of fact, that's a good one because NATO sent a squadron of F-16s to check it out. And they made the chit-chat available between the pilots and NATO. And they were going back and forth. The guy asked for orders. He asked for permission to shoot it several times. And the guy's like, how big is it? He said, no, you're not shooting anything. Just turn around and come home. One of the pilots went rogue and actually launched a missile. You can hear the whole thing. He launches the missile. Missile just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to the missile. They found the guy on the ground 70 miles away, and his plane landed on a highway, sat there with wheels down and everything, just sitting there. Mm-hmm. They physically took this guy out of his plane and took the plane and put it in one place. They were just proving a point. They could have easily killed the man. So they were just proving a point to whoever was watching, don't screw with us because this is what can happen to you. This went on from Belgium for like 3 years. I have no idea what they were looking for there. They were flying over this country for quite some time. And then we started seeing the little TRBs show up, I guess, to see if they could find out what the big guys were looking for. It was a very interesting case. It was a lot of fun to talk about. There was a lot of good witnesses. We talked to several of the F-16 pilots. We talked to several of the people who live in the town itself. Thank God that two of my friends speak German. It was just, and a lot of the people said when the thing was over the town, they felt lighter, like it was some type of maybe field drive or something that made them. The guy said, this guy was as big as I was. He said it made him feel like he had a bounce in his step, like when he stepped, like walking on the moon almost. There was just a lack of gravity in the area. They seen like flames on the flame-lit streets lift off of the actual candle itself and was sitting above it, but still lit. They got lots of reports of these. They got all kind of weird stuff come out of this, and then poof, it stopped. Yep. No one's seen one there since. No one knows why it happened. No one knows why it stopped. It's just like some of the Gulf Breeze sightings or some of the California sightings, some of the Florida, some of the Texas sightings. come in a rash, and then poof, they stop. Like
Well, it sounds
Sedona,
like Kansas
Arizona.
is a crazy place for sightings because Bill and Margie, like, wait, are you in Kansas as well?
Oh, I'm in Kansas City,
Yeah.
Missouri.
Kansas? Oh,
Yeah.
Missouri. Okay.
Yeah.
used
One of
to
my
be
good
in
friends is in
Kansas
Kansas City,
but I'm in Chicago now.
Okay. Okay.
the
So
Windy City.
it's
And
you
they
guys
got a
are,
lot of stuff goes on up there too. It's crazy.
yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that's craziness. So okay, so let's sort of get back into being able to capture these things. Um I totally want to backtrack a little bit
Wait,
to
before you do that, let me. Since you got three people, let me ask y'all something. So one of the pictures that came out of Roswell was a picture of what we would consider aircraft aluminum, fiber optics, and a microchip. So it's been talked about that today's computer age may have been an accident, simply because we recovered that one chip. That's what started the computer age that we all live in today. Without that chip, there wouldn't be all this stuff that we're doing right now. It would be a whole different life. I've always found that interesting because I've often wondered, was this on purpose or was this an accident? Because there's no way to find out because no one knows. But I've always wondered because it is a good chance that we accidentally invented the computer age. It just baffles my mind. I'm sorry. It's one of them things that makes me crazy. I'm like, okay, because it makes you wonder what would have been here without it. That
Hmm,
crash wouldn't
I,
have happened.
go ahead.
I think things have been back engineered based on some information I've been able to discuss with even a family member in the past that reverse engineering did take place, and I've read the
There's
famous
been some
book
for
now
sure.
by the Corso himself that is out. I've read it, and I could understand a lot of what he was talking about. I think they talked about the donut hole, where these things would just appear and disappear
Hmm.
in the sky
Oh
or
yeah,
right in front of them. Well, I've got those on video
yeah,
of
yeah.
the
The doorway
donut
closed.
shape, and then two things come right through the video, and
Oh
then
well,
they're
then
gone.
you'll love it. On my website, on the iCar website, there's a picture taken over Blunt Island. It's a
Hmm.
electrical place. A electrical plant is what it is. So there's a
Hmm.
picture we took one afternoon. One of my directors took it. He takes this picture. We didn't notice anything because there was nothing in the sky when we took this picture. Nothing we saw anyway. So we get back to the hotel and we're going through the viewfinder, and you see what looks to be like a donut or a dropa stone over the top
Hmm.
of the plant. And then what you notice is there's a smokestack off to the right with just a little trickle of smoke coming out the top of it. Whatever this thing was picking up the smoke and bringing it around it. So
Hmm.
we were like, well, what the hell is this? Obviously, there was something physical there, something big as the plant.
Hmm.
But we were like, what was it? And this went on. So I was on coast to coast. Just before I went on coast to coast, a friend of mine called and said, Joe, there's something else in the picture. It's like, what are you talking about? Right next to the tower with this smoke, there's a little craft headed right for the center of whatever this thing is. There's not enough detail in the craft to make out what it is because it looks tiny in the picture, but it's definitely headed for the center because there's a clear hole in the center of this thing. And it was just crazy because we always tell people, deep water areas, military bases, national parks, stuff like that. You should always be taking a lot of pictures because there's a lot of alien activity around those places for whatever reason. Um, and we were just following our own rules when we took this picture and found this. While we're talking, I'll pull it off the website in a little while, but it was
Okay.
very, very interesting just to see it there. George Norrie's like, what the hell is that? I said, George, if I knew what it was, I'd tell you, boss. All I can say, because we've seen other portals, it just looked like maybe a gateway or a portal. Because,
Yep.
a lot of times when people describe UFOs to me, they say, oh, it's there and then it's gone. Not like it flew off, like it disappeared.
It
Like it went
disappeared.
through, yeah, like it went through a gateway or a doorway or something. Not
No, I
like it flew off in the
right.
distance. So I've often wondered
Yeah.
about that after seeing this. And then one place I seen over, not Fort Bragg, was down in DeRidder, Louisiana, one of the Army bases down there. We seen what. So we were all laying out watching stars, sky watching basically, and this triangle thing. And the only reason you knew it was there because it blotted out the stars behind it. It just
Hmm.
was moving along, just kind of putting along. And when it crossed a big star field, it would block out the whole star field. So you knew there was something physically there. You couldn't see what it was. You knew it was triangle shaped because of the way it blocked out the stars. But other than that, and you knew it had to be massively big because it did look like it was in space. So it had to be huge. But other than that, all I can say, I just think both those things were some type of portal that the aliens used to move back and forth. I mean, maybe y'all have experienced it. I don't know. I always ask people because you never know when someone's seeing this or not seeing this. Because, you know, I don't get enough reports of, oh, I was looking at it, it streaked off. No, it's always like, oh, it was there and I was watching and and then it was gone. I was like, what do you mean it was gone? It was, well, Joe, it was like it was going to take off and then it was gone. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, like a door.
Is it the same thing? And you guys, please chime in if you've seen this sort of thing while we're talking about, you know, because you know that they can, I think, travel with a thought. I truly believe that they can do that.
The Greys can for sure.
But I've seen just like a flash in the sky. I'll just say, like, it'll just go boom, boom, like this. And I've driven down the road and I will look up and I know the area where I've seen it and I'll say, where are you? And I would say 1 out of every 5 times it will flash out and then like a big just like that quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's happened to me a few times. The first time I noticed it, I was on my way to a MUFON meeting, and I was just driving down the road, and all of a sudden it's like the sky opened up. In fact, it looked kind of like it was jagged, and it just looked very different. Nothing came out of it, but it was just, whoa, what the heck is that?
Right.
And, over time, I've seen momentarily opened, I guess they're portals. But there's a lot of different shapes to them. Many of them tend to be round or spherical, just like Einstein predicted. But I've actually gotten a video of some craft coming in and out of a red portal that developed about a mile from the house, and it was interesting. It just, this is one that wasn't just real quick opened real quick. It kind of built slowly and then developed, and then it was just really bright and just sitting there, and then just over the next 30 seconds, so it just kind of went away. You know.
No, see that's interesting. I like hearing different stories about that because it's not just me. I've seen unusual type things in the sky. Margie, Bill, how about you guys? Do you see anything like that before you're able to capture the photo?
Yeah. I have several that the sky, a little hole will open up. You can see 2 craft come through it in the tandem pair arrangement and then disappear, and the hole is gone then instantaneously. Those are in white light, and then there's some. Just last week, I caught one frame in the video I took, short video. It only showed in one frame, and it's black, and the craft is black, and it's and it does the same thing. It's only in one frame, and it appears and disappears. And there again, as we were talking earlier, there's another craft sitting in the sky. I'm looking to the north, and it's the one that I'm actually communicating with or have a precognition to show itself. And this other thing comes through the photo. And then another one that I shared with Margie recently, and it's black, completely black, and it just shows up in one frame, and it has the same silhouette as something I took 2 years ago. You could lay them on top of each other, but the one that I caught earlier 2 years ago, you can see the whole image of the craft and what it looks like, including the windows.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating.
And they seem to be fascinated. It's like they want to pop in and pop out. So I believe that in my personal experiences, they're watching us. For some reason, they're watching us.
I definitely believe we're being watched for sure. Sometimes you just right, Margie, go ahead.
Well, I've been studying portals for years. It basically started by my own house, having a portal in my house and discovering that. So kind of led from there. But after having seen flashes in the sky, seen swirls on the outside of my house open up with a void in it, and figuring out how some buildings can cause portals by their shapes, things like that. one day I was very curious as to what people were seeing with the flashes in the sky. And I thought, well, I'm going to remote view this. So I'm going to ask whoever's out there what's going on. And so instantly I was taken back and up in the sky a little bit, and I saw myself standing in the driveway where I was standing, and a me putting myself into an altered state of consciousness. And by doing so, a flash occurred. And so what I had done was gone into another dimension, gone to a higher dimension myself, and a craft saw that flash, flashed back at me, and came in close, and we had a conversation, telepathic conversation. And they said, my initiation of this communication by moving myself into a higher dimension caught their attention. And so they were interested in having communication with me. So if you notice them, they notice you, and then you have this interaction going on. And so to me, that was just fascinating. And it really kind of makes sense. It makes sense that that is the case, that we are initiating this contact. And it's kind of like the quantum UFO observation technique that we
That was
use.
one of my questions. So yeah, if you guys could talk about that.
It explains how that works. I
Okay.
mean, this discovery explains why that works. Basically.
Okay.
It does get into quantum physics, where everything that we see and exist, from my experience, is just a state or level of consciousness. It's a frequency, and if you stay at one level that a lot of people do, you're going to just see the 3D environment. You can't, these other frequencies, I call it, or states of consciousness, they're right next to us. I mean, you can almost reach out and touch it. It's that close, from my experience. It's also dealing with non-locality. So if you can project your thought, you can project it out infinitely into the universe, into whole creation, or whatever you want to call it. You can put your thoughts out there, and your thoughts have energy, and they can be listened to. Okay.
Like the collective consciousness, that sort of thing.
Yes. It's like having a conversation like we are right now.
Right.
So, but it's just telepathically is what it is, because I don't even have to speak it out loud. At first I did, but now I just put out a message mentally, and I visualize everything around my house, or the sky around my house, and to the north, to the west, to the east, and I project that thought. And yeah, I want you to appear in that part of the sky. So I go out deliberately and I aim at that part of the sky, and usually I get something. There will be others. My neighbor calls them anomalies.
Yes.
He's had the same experience after I showed him. He's like, "Well, this is unbelievable." My neighbor, and he's taken a little bit and worked with it also, and people I've worked with in the past. I've shown them how to do this, and they've taken it and done that. So yeah, it deals with consciousness.
Yes. Yeah, Margie, go ahead.
Well, we've been able to work with a lot of people, teach a lot of people this technique, and it's nearly always successful. I don't even know of one person that didn't have success with it.
Right.
So anybody can learn it.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem, when you talk about the CE5, and I mean, there are people out there who have, full weekends and things, and they teach you how to go through, okay, we're going to meditate, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I mean, I've called them with a thought. It's like you guys are doing. There's a telepathic thought, and bam, there they are. So I'm thinking, seems like an awful lot of work and money just to go and do something you could do from your backyard, if you know how to do it. So you're essentially saying, no, I go out there and I put out the thought, and then I have the experience.
I think it kind of goes both ways.
I did.
Sometimes you get a contact from them, and then if you're listening, then you go out and say, well, what was it? In fact,
Right.
I'm dealing with a case right now where the witness didn't know why, but she thought she had to go outside. And within just a few seconds of going outside, this craft went right across the sky in about a second from
Wow.
way off
Yep.
from one. I mean, it was a far distance from one horizon to the other.
See, to me, that lends credence to the fact that those are it's theirs, because they're going to be the ones who are connected to you telepathically. I think reverse or back engineered crafts, I don't think they're going to have that same kind of connection with you. Your technique, from what you're saying, you are eliminating that
Correct.
part of things, so there's really no question.
Yep. That's what I'm agreeing with you 100% because I feel a connection, like a precognition is a good word to express that. And I'll put the thought out, usually on my weekends, but I've gone out at lunchtime and done this also on clear days and had the same success. And people are standing around like, "What are you doing?" And so I explain it to them, how this happens and how it occurs. And several people have had their lives transformed. I mean, they can observe and do this, and now they've gone the next step, and they're using their psychic abilities that we, I believe, all have to a certain degree, and now they're doing that also, and they're not afraid to talk about it anymore. You
Mhm.
know, the level of existence. What's existence? To me, it's consciousness, and I only know because of my near-death experience when I left my body. I
Mhm.
didn't. This is just a shell
Mhm.
to put my conscious into. Is the way I've come to look at it. And I see a listener has a question. Are they
Yeah.
selective?
Yeah, I just didn't want to
Uh,
interrupt you. Yes.
yes, I have had some people that I've shown this to, and they just can't get anything to, sometimes they can't get anything to happen until someone who's had experience stays with them. And then all of a sudden, everything changes because you start getting more things happening on their cell phone, for instance, and they're like, wow, and then all of a sudden they wake up
Mhm.
and then they start down the path that I've been in.
Mhm. Dolly says
And
quantum computers can reach you telepathically. That actually scares the living bejesus out of me. It's 'cause,
Yeah.
I mean, your phone
yep.
listens to you, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it does. It does. It follows me wherever I am. But I've also had in the beginning, in 2010, after I started waking up and recording all of this, I had incidences with my car acting up. You remember the famous movie where the lights go flashing and everything, and the windshield wipers are on and everything
Right.
go crazy? It happened to me. I was going to go tell my parents and explain to them my experiences and show them the photos and videos. And I took a Friday off to go do that. And I was leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden, all this crazy stuff started. I also had two of my computers completely, the hard drives completely messed up, like an electronic uh, EMP attack on it. I had to buy that. And the only thing that saved everything is I had things saved to the DVDs, which are holograms.
Mm.
They're holographic. You can't destroy the data unless you scratch the disk.
Mhm.
And so everything was saved holographically, I call it, onto the CDs or DVDs actually. And so I still have all my original photos, and I've converted everything now to other standard formats. But yeah, I had some engagements with some negative beings, I'm going to call them. We call
Mhm.
them the Greys, the little Greys. I've
Mhm.
had them. I've seen them. I was shown one on my first dream, lucid dream, when I was awakened in 2009, and they told me I'd start seeing these guys. Basically, is what they
Right.
told me, and they
Mhm.
showed me one up close, and I said, "Oh, that's a movie prop." Literally, that's what the words came out of my mouth or my telepathic thought in the dream.
Mhm.
And it wasn't more than 24 hours later I saw one looking out an orb back at me over my
Mhm.
house. Uh, and I didn't get a picture of it because I was startled. Okay, I didn't want to fully try to figure it out at first, but eventually I caught that, and I've caught other beings that I've shared with Margie also. You can see the figure inside the craft,
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll be putting some of
engaged.
those pictures in our new book that we're working on right
Yeah.
now.
Oh,
Yeah.
new book.
So
I
yeah.
like
So and then there is a way of explaining what you see and how it's recorded. I've talked, as I said, I've talked to different astrophysicists, Stephen, that we've shared over the 15 years, and it's basically the dark and light. A lot of everything will show up that way. Well, it deals with the way the camera picks up and processes, the little processor, the CCD, processes the pixels. So if
Mhm.
it's extreme energy, it'll turn black. If it's in between, it'll go to white. So I've kind of assessed that, and with the use of polarization, it's linear polarization. That's what I use as a linear polarizer. I tried the
Sounds
other
funny.
two types that are out there. Doesn't work. It
Mhm.
Mhm.
kind of blurs the image, but a linear polarizer works, and I've used that on my cameras. In fact, my sunglasses, your fit overs, a lot of that's all they are, and I can see a lot of these with my naked eye with the fit overs.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
can see
that's
them with my own
oh,
eyesight, like
Yeah.
Margie can.
Uh,
Mhm.
And I,
the-
I do
And other
without
people do.
any
Yeah,
lenses.
yeah.
But and one thing I want to tell everybody is that these things are everywhere all the time. They're
Yep.
constantly around us. I
Mhm.
can look in the sky any time of the day and see them.
Mhm.
And they move so fast. Some of what we've been able to capture, or that witnesses have captured, and for instance, Wayne has evaluated a lot of photos. Well, we all have, but we eventually end up turning things over to Wayne for a deep analysis. He's found things that are flying 8,000 miles an hour, 12,000 miles an hour, or higher, 24,000 miles an hour. And when something is close to you, flying at that speed, you don't see it. You would
No,
not normally
it's like
see it.
a blink. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
see something
Yeah.
like
And
that.
and plus if it's in a little bit higher dimension, and so I'm always in third and fifth dimension constantly.
Mhm.
So I'm used to it, and I can drive down the road and see them if I want to.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Most people are not doing that. But the camera technique, anybody can learn how to do and prove to themselves that they're there.
Mhm.
They can't.
Yeah.
Let me show y'all this right quick. Well, go
Okay.
ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
Okay.
off. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying. I can bring this up
Well,
while you're talking.
I was gonna let everybody know. Last November, I made a presentation, and we had 11 individuals or 10 people there actually, and we went out. It was in the late afternoon at 4, and sure enough, everybody saw something.
Yep.
Everybody was there, caught something, and this was the first time that they had been exposed to this. How to
Okay.
do this. That I'd shown enough information. So that's kind of where we're at with this. Oh, I see the photo. Good, good.
Yeah. So if you're looking right now, you'll notice. So you can see my mouse. You'll see this circle.
Mhm.
Beautiful little circle here. Okay. Now this was not seen by the naked eye. This is only the photo. If you'll see here, the smokestack. There's the smoke coming out. It's connecting right here, and it's being pulled around by whatever this is now. To make it a little clearer, here it is blown up.
Oh,
Not only
wait a
can you
minute.
see the center hole, you can see the ridge sides going through it. And right
Wait,
here,
wait.
there's a
That's a
ship
huge
going right
craft.
for it. It is a huge craft.
I've been photographing this since 2 years ago over my house. That's a craft.
Yeah, this was taken in 2004, by the way.
Yeah, and
You
there's other
notice when,
craft all around him.
yeah, so
Oh
you'll see
my.
right here, right on the side of the stack, there's one right there.
Yep.
There it
Yep.
is.
Going
Yeah.
right for
Yep.
the center. You can
Yep.
you can
I'm,
definitely see the
guys,
smoke
I'm
being
getting a
pulled.
download of information right now to confirm that that is a large craft like I've been seeing over my house and in other perspectives looking towards the west or the east or the south. I've been
Mhm.
seeing that since 2000. 2.
Yeah,
July the 4th, 2002, it appeared over my house with all these other little craft around it in the
yeah,
photos.
and there's definitely other craft in it. And these were
Yeah.
being seen. They called them dropastones for a long time. They were being seen in different places in Europe, and then all of a sudden they
Yep.
started being seen in the United States. But this one is actually totally invisible. You would not see it if it would not
Without
be
the
for this
camera.
little stream. Well, no, even with the camera, it's this
Yeah.
little stream of
Yep.
smoke that connects. It grabs it
hmm
and it's pulling
hmm
it around. Whatever this is definitely moving or spinning
Right.
or something. But this
Yep.
smoke catches it right here and it's being pulled around the craft. That's what makes
Yeah.
this whole thing visible.
I see
Without
the
it,
craft spinning,
yeah. So
remote
without
viewing
it,
it right
yeah.
now.
So
Yep.
without it, you wouldn't
They
see it. And then
spin.
you see this little baby craft right here. See, you know,
Mhm.
it's right there. But that wasn't even
Yep.
noticed when this all was originally done. Nobody even noticed it. Everybody thought it was maybe an
Right.
antenna coming off of this, and then we
Right.
realized it was separate. And this is one. This made coast to coast. I think 2003 or
Yep.
4. But you'll notice anytime we do this stuff, and we've got literally hundreds of pages of stuff like this. You'll notice we put on there what type of camera it was, where it was taken, Marshall, Florida, times and places. We do that for other people who may have ran across something or seen something or may have had something. These are all photos that have been taken. This, I don't know what the hell this thing is, just streaking across the sky on a level plane. This is actually a disc that landed an Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. We got a whole video of this. This is
Yeah.
just pictures taken from the video. And this is interesting because right here in this big bubble is it's a radar tower, basically. It's one of them round towers like you use to put a telescope in. But this bubble is surrounding the whole thing. This is the fence you see is Eglin Air Force Base. And we have seen so much strange shit around that base that it's not even funny. It's kind of scary, actually. But I wanted to show you while I was thinking about it because it's an interesting photo. There's not many of them out there like it. Most people don't get anything that large on film, and it's just big. I mean, you can see next to the facility, it's a big ass. It's a big. It looks like a mothership just hanging out. What was it doing there? Was it getting power? Was it retrieving other crap? I couldn't tell you what it was doing.
But
Well,
it just lends credence to what you guys are saying with being able
Yeah.
to take the photos.
Well, some of these, I believe, when they present themselves, they're basically like a hologram. They're holographic because they have to project into our 3D environment. When I'm doing this, it's kind of like me remote viewing, but they're projecting a little bit. Others I know are completely here because I even have seen them engage the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the atmosphere has been changed
May,
around it.
may I
But
show
others,
some of your photos as well while you're talking?
yeah, we can. We can. Yes.
Yeah, toss them up
Yep.
there.
That'll work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to present, and you can keep talking. I'll just put them up, and you can talk
I
about
would
it.
actually show
with-
more, but I'm on the wrong computer for that.
Oh,
No,
okay.
that's okay. You can leave yours up, Joe. We're just going to go from here. Okay, here we go.
Take it down there.
Yes. This was taken by me, and I have it's a Kodak. It's like a 35 millimeter digital, and I just put the filter polarizer on
Mm-hmm.
and put out the message, "Hey, show yourselves." And all of a sudden, my camera literally took a picture by itself. I didn't even have my hand on the finger on the button,
Mm-hmm.
and this came out. And I was like, "What?" And then I zoomed in on it, and it looks a lot like this large round white disc. I call it the pizza shape, you know.
Right.
But it's similar to this. But when I put the message out, notice everything behind it is distorted. It's like this wanted to be seen. It came forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a much like when I project myself to remote view,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like that. Everything around me is kind of blurred until I get there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of them. And it was based on a precognition event where I was told to come outside and start taking pictures. And I didn't have my finger on the button. They took the picture. And I use the word they because it was weird. I just gotten the camera held up, and I have a 2-story house, and that was looking south at high noon almost when I went out there, and that showed up. And then I had another photo series that I think Margie has shared, shows like a group of 3.
Okay, I'm going to see. Let me see what's here. She sent 3 of them. But I think this is the one. Oh, that's the one you want. Okay, let me get that up for you. Alrighty. Bam, bam, and here we go. There we are.
Okay. Yes. Okay. The two in the upper right, the ones that look like orbs, uh, they were the first things that ever appeared to me, and I could actually see through one of them um, in the very beginning and saw there was a small being inside it.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
it was sitting in there, and the brightness had diluted, and I could see it with my sunglasses on. And then this grouping started to show up, and I used an old initial Canon camera to take this, but basically I just used my fit over sunglasses, uh, popped out a lens, taped it over it,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
I caught these photos of this just sitting in the sky, uh,
Yeah,
and then they
brilliant.
moved.
A
It's like
brilliant
they
idea.
stopped, let me take a picture, and then they moved on and disappeared.
I find this interesting as well. You have this
Yeah.
this anomaly, shall we say, and then you've got
Yes.
this rainbow sort of effect in here as well.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot. As I said, there doesn't appear to be any lens flares because when I took this, I wasn't even looking towards the sun. This
Mm-hmm.
was looking towards the northwest, and about 2 in the afternoon, and they came
Wow.
out this bright. They came
It's
through.
interesting to me, yeah, to be able to capture it clearly in the
Mhm.
daytime.
It's daytime.
Yes, yes, because it is so bright, and you're looking for light.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and
Yes.
then you've got the sun. Everything just gets so distorted. Let me grab the next one. One moment, and then we will get. I think this is the next one here. Okay, bear with me. This should allow you to do more than one. I should be able to do one while I'm sitting there waiting. Just technology. Got to catch
Oh,
up.
I'll have to show you how to put them in your messenger
Yeah.
things as you're running
Yeah,
through.
that would be great. All right,
Yeah.
here we are.
We labeled this the Tic Tac
Okay.
in the book. As I said, this is a lot like I believe the craft that that came out in 2004 in the video. This is what they were chasing with something like this.
Okay.
And if there was ever a way to zoom in, you can even see the windows in the front of it. There's a row
So,
of windows.
to zoom in, yeah, I think I could.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Is that these
windows.
guys right here, right?
Yeah. Lower, right along the bottom edge. Those are
Oh,
windows.
I see. Yes, yes.
The
Right in
black
here.
on top are the panels that they're field emitters, for lack
Mm-hmm.
of a better word. These crafts I was shown, and later I found a patent for it
Mm-hmm.
by an individual in the U.S., and they use what they call inflationary vacuum state propulsion. And where the high energy is, that's what turns black on the pixels because it
Mm-hmm.
can't. There's so much energy. The computer that's called the bare mask. It deciphers what colors pixels to put where,
Mm-hmm.
and based on the energy coming off with the capacitors, the
Wow.
CCD they call it in the
Mm-hmm.
cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's high energy, it has that. And if you look at the patent and the illustrations in it and what the inventor describes, it this meets all the criteria and what I've seen in my videos when I slowed them down. You can see the field. But this was sitting in the sky. It stopped for me. I put out the thought and it just sat there in the sky.
Hmm.
Let me take its picture with
Wow.
the quantum observation, UFO observation technique with the polarizer, the linear polarizer.
Wow. So basically, this is something that anybody can go out and do, which is
They can do it.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
And we also encourage people to go outside and take pictures of nothing. Just snap a bunch of pictures or take you know 15 seconds of video and then take it in and analyze and go back and look at it. And then also, a lot of people have found things in old photo albums that go back through all their old stuff that they never noticed before. And lo and behold, there will be something strange.
Like
Usually
the old
somebody will
vacation
find
pictures
something.
that takes you 2 years to go through, and you're like, yes.
Yeah, or something you've had for 30 years, and you've always looked at it, and you just never noticed this weird object that's in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. But now I'm going to be going back and looking at some of my childhood vacation pictures. Everything always happens in the north.
That's why everything gets put on the 70-inch TV, so I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
It's, I got it set up to where I can bring it from here to there, operate it from my phone, zoom, cut, move. I like it. It works really good. I got another built-in zoom on the TV itself. And I got it's a noise cancellation for my TV for any fuzz that might be in the video. It's really a nice setup. And it allows you to look at a lot of stuff. Because on a big screen, it's less likely you're going to miss something if, like, well, what I'm sitting in front of me is 30 inches, but still. But on the big one, because it also allows me to look at multiple things at one time, too. I can queue up a couple things. Like if I got a set of pictures like this, if I got a setup here like this one, I can just go through them. This picture down here at the bottom, the only one that won't let me blow it up, this was actually taken in Brazil. This is a big saucer, and I mean big.
Yeah.
It was taken on a phone. It's hard to see in this picture, but when you see it, I got to set it so you can blow it up. There's a dust cloud underneath it. It's so close to the ground that there's actually a dust cloud between it and the ground.
Number 3 sort of looks a little bit like Bill's photo that we just.
Oh, there's a couple of them in here. Where is it? I don't know if it's on this list, but there's a couple of them in here that looks like the pizza photo he took. There's this one right here, and then there's a couple of other ones. You got 3 of them right here. You got 1 of them right here. So what we did with this site is there's about 1,000 pictures on this site that start back as far as I think the 50s and work forward. See, they'll have the dates and places they were taken. These are all in the 60s, except for this Brazilian one was different. These were all taken up to 71. But we do this because we want people to get an idea of what it is that they're looking at or what they're looking for. There's tons of sources. And of course, this is Belting. This is like what they found in Ketzberg, but this was taken in 1996, flying in the sky. And there's lots and lots of other stuff, the satellites. And of course, there's a Dark Knight satellite, which somebody finally got a picture of, which everybody's trying to figure out what exactly it is, since it's supposedly been in geostationary orbit for 12,500 years. They're just, and the reason they came up with that date is one of the NASA guys says it's because of the amount of debris and where the debris is around the craft. They said that NASA swears when they were pushing this that it didn't exist. And when they asked one of the astronauts, so it exists. But as far as we can tell, it's not in operation. He said, when I look at this thing, and he said, I've asked other astronauts this, he said, I get the sense that it's just waiting to come on, like it's waiting for something. Maybe it's to mature to a certain extent or something. He said, I don't know what it is. He said, but it feels ominous, Joe. And he's like, it just bothers me because it's very advanced, whatever it is. It's way more advanced than anything we got. And Elon almost said something about it. He was asked about it because they had some pictures, because Elon's satellites have gotten some pictures in space, along with other satellites that have. And he went to say, somebody asked him about it particularly, and he knew exactly what they were talking about. And he went to answer, and then he looked over at somebody, looked down and said, you know what, it's not something I can talk about, and walked off. And I mean, he just walked off. He didn't say anything else after that point. He just walked off and said, well, thank you, but no thank you. I'm not going to go there because I guess whatever it was might have gotten him in trouble. Or could have gotten him in trouble. You never know these days what's what, but I mean, these are out of volcanoes. We got all kinds of these popping out of volcanoes and stuff like that.
Right.
And of course, this one's a hoax over here, this Mexico City. This is another huge one that when you seen it up close was big, but the guy who did it actually confessed. He actually came out. And everybody, people still think it's real today. People tell me all the time, oh, that was real. I said, no, I know the guy. He actually confessed to what he, no. Yep. I said, no, he confessed. I said, I'm sorry, but he did confess. And then we got pictures of stuff that Walt Anders got pictures down in Gulf Breeze, Florida. We were down there about 2 years after he moved, and we got some really good pictures of several different craft down there. And And see, these are all in different countries all around the planet. This is why I like this up here, because people can say this is Germany, England, Venezuela, Brazil,
Mhm.
Rio de Janeiro, Australia. I mean, it shows you how prominent this is, and it's been going on, well, for as long as, and I see there's more of these, all these little flat bottom ones.
But it shows you that there has been interest, and you guys have basically now found a way for laymen, to just go out and capture something for themselves. So have people been sending you guys photos as well? Like, have you been seeing
Oh
the
yeah,
product of your teachings?
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And a lot of them
Thousands.
post on the Fast Mover Facebook page.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. So people who are not having success with it, where are they going wrong?
Not trying. Yeah. I mean, if you're really making a concerted effort and you do the process, you should get results.
Mhm.
The easiest thing to do is just to take like a 20-second or 30-second video. And like as not, if you have the software and can run it frame by frame after that, you'll see stuff.
Mhm.
But you can use the QOP technique, the Quantum UFO Observation Technique, and that shows the same thing. I mean, they're just there, and anywhere you look, they're there. They're just it kind of boggles the mind how much there is around us that we're not aware of.
Mhm. Do you find, because Bill, you spoke about dreams, I get downloads. Have you had any experiences such as this? I had a download. It's like a vision, I guess, and I see myself just stepping off out of my car, and I look back, and there's this almost like iridescent, all pastel, like all behind me, the whole sky behind me, almost like an arch, is all these colors. I'm going, it's a portal. And I'm going through this in my mind. About, I would say 2 years later, I was actually driving in that area, and I look up, and in front of me is a huge, like, half moon, the whole sky. I mean, this is nighttime, but the whole sky went white, and it was the exact same thing. It was all pastels, all iridescent. It was massive, and I'm the only one that saw it.
Yep. Yeah, I've had the last dream I had that actually had the craft in it. We're going on 6.5 years ago,
Mm.
and I know where I'm standing, and there's a flash of light, and I'm wearing my sunglasses in the video, or I call it a video, but it's my dream.
Mm.
And I remember all the details, and I look over my shoulder, and this huge white craft that looks a lot like what Joe shared is
Mhm.
in the southern sky. And then all of a sudden, everything to the north looks like I'm looking through a veil, or a kind of like that photograph I had where everything in the background went washed out, and then everything right up close, and there's the two orbs that were in the where the three were shown.
Mhm.
Those two show up in the northern sky,
Mhm.
and then it flagged me to look behind, and then all of a sudden I was taken up to the craft in the dream.
Mhm.
And uh, that's the last time, and that's one of the times that I last saw the tall white light energy beings, was in that dream.
Mhm.
And after that, then that white craft started showing up over my house. I could stand on the patio and look straight up and see it at high noon,
Right.
which was kind of strange. And I could share. I'd like to share that with Joe or whatever.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
we can think perhaps find a way to do that, because I think you'll understand what I have photos of.
I'd love
And
to,
it
because
doesn't always appear real crisp either, but I've
no,
actually seen it flip over. I've seen it on the top side and the bottom side. It in a series of stills I took, it flipped over even to show me there's two sides to it, a top and a bottom.
yeah. So I'm gonna share with something y'all probably shouldn't share, but so in all the research that we've done, and I mean it's a lot, And I was a director for MUFON for a long time until I left to for greener pastures, we'll say. Um, Something we learned early on: 99% of everybody who sees a UFO has been taken. We don't, for most of our researches, which right now is over 1,000. Most of us don't think that you will see a UFO if you haven't been taken. We think it's something that once you've been taken, it's in your system and it allows you to be able to see them. Because if
You think
not,
maybe that's why having a
well,
telepathic link is so easy?
well, this help clarifies it. New York City, one of the biggest cities on the planet. Ambassador from the UN is sitting there watching what's her name, Linda, being taken from her hotel, from her apartment. Her and two Secret Service agents, no less, watch this woman being taken. So people are walking by asking where you're looking at. He's pointing up, looking at him. Nobody's seeing it, but these three. Nobody else saw it. No one in that whole massive city saw it but those three. Mexico City, 1999. 22 million people live in there. Over 1 million people reported seeing a UFO. Why didn't the other 21 million people see it? They were outside watching. You could see people standing on roofs. The guy next to him wasn't seeing it, but the guy there was seeing it.
Hmm.
Why is that? And it's not just them. The Belgium sightings, 37,000 reports out of an area with 500,000 people living in it. So it tells you that it's either something that's built into us or it's because we've been taken that gives us the ability, like you said, stop. So if I had $1 for every contactee who said, do this, do this, do this, and the UFO just went ahead and did it, or it flashed its lights, I could retire. I'm not kidding you. I could actually retire. But if I asked an ordinary person off the street, could you make a UFO? No, they won't even think about it. It's not even something that even registers in their head. So for us, when we hear people talking about what y'all are talking about, see, y'all sound like keepers to me. It sounds like you've been assigned something by the aliens to share with the rest of us, to help other people, not so much the general population, but the people who have had experiences to understand that this is real. Because this is more about, for you, with some of the stuff you've told me, Bill, that makes me think they're wanting to prove to you, or maybe you've asked them to, that they're real. I know Margie's done this before because her and I have talked about it in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like they're wanting y'all to know, look, we are real. We want you to feel comfortable talking about this. We don't want you to feel pulled back or sketchy. Because, if you get kind of sketchy around, people think you're lying. But when you're very point of the fact, they don't. So I really think that's what a lot of it is about, because I've never met an ordinary Joe who's seen a UFO. And I've brought people on many occasions where I've gone out with 50, 60 contactees, 50, and we've run many experiments on this where we've run 50 other people. We'll go half and half. 50 people we know has been taking, just 50 random people. And these people don't see it, but these people do.
But do you think, Joe, that's because maybe they have a repressed memory? Maybe they need to wake up. And maybe that's what people...
I think the aliens turned it on and said, okay, you proved whenever you were on board the ship last time, you proved that this does not scare you, this does not make you crazy, and you're not going to let it wreck your life. Because most contactees, or even most normal people who were dealing with just the stuff that the five of us have been talking about, is enough to run them over the edge.
But you
life
notice,
is already
that the
crazy
five of
enough.
us are out here and we're putting out that information, like Margie, Bill,
but everybody in this group is an experiencer.
How to do this? Maybe in doing that, it flips that switch. Also,
if they've been
and it's
taken,
why they're teaching them how to flip the switch and have their experience, which validates.
Yes, but they have to be someone who's been taken. I guarantee you, if you go get a bunch of people that you know have not been taken, it's not going to work for them. Maybe just because they simply don't believe, or maybe they won't take the effort.
Maybe they're just scared.
But when we put people together in groups of non-contactee versus contactees, there's much different experiences going on at the same time. It's just, and matter of fact, I had this discussion with Dr. Greer, God, like 15 years ago. We were in DC speaking at the X conference, both of us, and he was going out to have a spiritual retreat. So he charged like $3,600 a head, and he would take all these people out to have a spiritual extraterrestrial retreat. To meet extraterrestrials, not to physically meet them. So he comes back and we're talking. I was sitting down talking with George Norrie, and he said, John, I want to ask you a question. And we got to talking about it. And I was like, So he said 6 of these people locked into this craft, just boom, boom, boom. And the other 6 had no idea anything was around, anything was going on. I said, because they had never been taken. They're not contactees. They're not abductees. They're just everyday people. So if you do the math, which I hate to even say this aloud, Alfred Weber did me this, and I had all kind of science journal write up all kind of reports about this. So most abduction researchers figure 10 to 15% of populations being taken. When we originally talked with Alfred about this, it was about 5 or maybe 10 years ago, when the population is around 7 billion. That means 1.5 billion people are being taken. 1.5 billion. That's an outrageous number. But it would also explain, because you hear how y'all keep talking to everywhere. Well, they'd have to be everywhere to be taking that amount of people. And I don't think they actually physically take that amount. I think that some people get wore out after a while because they abduct in family lines anyway. So eventually this person's no longer useful for that, so they just quit taking them. And then they sporadically take people in different ways for different things, for different uses, because they do have uses for us humans, believe it or not. And you'd be surprised at how many of my friends that I've taught over the years, if they can get their gifts under control, they're because for us, you're not an abductee if you're not empathic or telepathic. You're just not. It's everybody always tells me, well, everybody has those gifts latent. That's bullshit, and I can prove it. We have gone to malls on 100 occasions with a deck of cards, simple colors, red and blue. Put them down, say, and we'll put a sign up. Would you like to see if you have telepathic abilities? You'd be surprised how many people jump in line. I mean, we've had 100, 200 people standing in line to do this. Maybe 1 out of every 100 was actually a telepath, would actually get the answer right. And now you don't get it just once. You have to do it at least 9 times for us to consider it's even legit. And they'll be bam, 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 but everybody else is getting it wrong. And what's funny is not only is everybody else getting it wrong, but they're getting it wrong more than 50% of the time. So when you flip a coin, heads or tails, it should be 50-50. But in these cases, it wasn't. It was like 65-35, 65% wrong, 35% right. So even guessing, they couldn't get it under control. So we learned right then and there. So we did this. We've done this all, not just in this country. We've done this in several other countries. And we put it to the test because I wanted to know if everybody's a latent telepath, some of these people should show up, and they're just not. But you find someone who's been taken, a contactee, and you ask them, they'll get it right almost every damn time. Not just that, they know things about you. They understand things about you. They can sense things about you. It's a much different level of telepathy than you'll normally see. And thanks to Boeing and it was Boeing and I'm sorry, it was the Air Force and the Navy helped us out. So you remember Ed Dames, right? Because I know y'all were talking about remote viewing. Well, when Ed Dames was forced to retire, the Air Force and the Navy decided that they weren't going to use remote viewing anymore. They were going to use strictly telepathy. And there was reasons why. Remote viewing is a great thing for finding missiles in places, but it's not really a good thing for finding codes to turn the missiles off. You really need a telepath for that, to be able to see the numbers. So they decided that the telepaths could both find the missile and to see the numbers. So they kind of retired the remote viewers for that reason. Not that remote viewing don't have a purpose. It does. It can be used for a lot of things, but the Air Force and the Navy can only afford one project or the other. So they went with the telepathy instead.
What, 36, what was it, $1 billion isn't enough?
You don't even want to know what this project. So,
Yeah.
But the reason we found out about it is I was contacted by both, asking that they know we keep a registry of gifted people because we track contactees, and all 144,000 contactees have already been proven that they're at least empathic. So the government already knew this. They knew so much about us, it wasn't even funny. And so they asked us point blank, do you think any of these people would be willing to go work for the government at $375,000 a year to start? This was 2000. This is when this happened, in the year 2000. That would be like $8K right now. And you'd be surprised how many of our contactees said, you know what, I think I'll give it a try. Then we found out that because of the military abductions, thanks to a general that worked for Space Command that I was introduced to by nothing to do with aliens, somebody from Writers of the Future introduced me to him, that they were using the empaths, when they were using the telepaths along with sodium pentothal and sodium amylothal to change people's memories that had experiences, especially military abductions.
Well, that brings us to this question right here for the guests. Have you found experiencers also get messed with my lab to avert their curiosity?
But only ones that go public.
Yeah.
Or well, let me
Okay.
retract that. That's not exactly true. It's mostly true, but in Betty and Barney Hill's case, Barney was identified long before they ever went public. He was identified as a young man. That's when the Air Force became interested in him. And then all of a sudden, this was a black man in the 60s that had three, not one colonel friend, but three. One lived with him, another one was up the road from him, and another one they went and had lunch with on the radio. Colonels don't usually just they're snobs. They're almost admirals or generals. They don't tend to just mess around with everyday people. Plus, he was in an interracial marriage, which in the 60s was a no-no. And then this same guy who had all these colonels hanging out with him was invited to dinner at the White House. He was a postman in an interracial marriage that was invited to the dinner at the White House because they knew damn good and well he had been being taken his whole life. That's why they knew to take him when he came back from Canada in the United States. They knew. They had been watching him. They knew what was going on. So I never thought the abduction in the United States was actually an alien abduction. I've always maintained it was a military abduction because if you listen to Betty and Barney Hill, if you go listen to the original Simpson tapes and you go listen to all the interviews they did in the late 60s, early 70s, you will hear them talk about this. Pull down maps. They used razor blades and needles to take fluid and skin samples and hair samples. They walked them up 4 flights of stairs to get in this craft. The guys were wearing black shoes, black pants, black shirts, and black duckbill hats. Sound like aliens to you? No, sounds like CDC to me. And the other guys inside the studio were wearing all CDC garb suits like they were disease control. So all of this stuff, none of this is extraterrestrial. This is all terrestrial-based technologies, all of it, from the swinging doors to the pull-down maps to the paperback books. This is the only case in all the cases we've investigated that had any of these things in it, any of it. It was upgraded when Betty and Barney Hill, when Kathleen Marjoram wrote her book, she tried to change it and say they were digital maps and they were digitalists, but that's not what the Hills said. It's clear what the Hills said. It's easy to find. You can still find all the interviews today. I still have the original the original tapes. And on the tapes, there's distinctly 3 different sets of memories. 3 different sets. There's the memories from their everyday life. There's the memories from the actual alien abduction, and there's the memories from the military abduction that was a cover-up. All 3 are there to hear. And you can tell the difference because when he gets with Barney and he gets where he's talking about the aliens, Barney starts screaming and hollering. You could hear he couldn't stay still in his chair. He just lost it. Betty didn't act like this to any of this stuff, but he did. And he just flipped out. So they knew they had him. It was probably the first real alien abduction person that the government ever had their hands on that they could track and know when to pick him up. So remember, when they were in Canada the day before they were taken, when you asked Betty and Barney Hill what hotel they stayed at, they said, "Oh, I don't remember." And they said, "We had breakfast across the street from the hotel." "Well, where did you have breakfast?" "Oh, I don't remember." I said, "Well, you were across the street from the hotel. How could you not remember?" "I don't remember." Later that day, they asked for directions. Betty describes him as a white Irish policeman, chunky white Irish policeman. Barney describes him as a tall, thin officer, tall, thin black officer, by the way. 2 distinctively different descriptions. This is classic alien abduction 101. This is just classic alien abduction. But when they cross the line, they get into the U.S., when you hear them talk about it, the car went dead. These guys walked over there and picked them up, put their arms on them, looped them back, walked them back to the craft, walked them up the stairs, walked them through the double doors, walked them into the room where they had the spinning chairs and stuff. None of this is alien. None of it. But even today, people want to fight about this case, even though they know when they go back and listen to the original tapes that was a military abduction, probably the first one we ever know about. But they don't want to, because, it's a staple to the field. So they don't want it changed. They want it to stay the same.
I think personally, when you talk about things like that, I think it deters people from wanting to be, public. Like, how many people
You got to be careful.
researchers? How many people have you think out there are holding on to experiences and phenomenal stories and sightings because of the fact that conditioning, who grew up,
because they got to be careful. I mean,
stuff like that, right? Because your neighbors will think you're crazy, your family will think you're crazy, and then as you get older, it becomes now we're being reconditioned to say, no, it's okay. You can talk about some of these stories. Sometimes maybe you suppress them. Sometimes maybe you second guess what you see, or your memory fails, or maybe you need hypnosis.
That's why we warn everybody when people come to us that want to go public, not people who are private, but people who want to go public, who want to get on the stage and talk. I always warn them. I said, if your contact is real and there is something in it that the government is interested in, they will come take you. You know, they're not going to harm you, because the aliens will get really pissed if they harm one of their contactees. And there have been stories where the aliens have removed people from a military abduction scenario. We've got at least 24 of those cases on file. But you do take a risk when you go public and you're talking about stuff like drive systems or navigating a ship or being on board a ship or being on board one of the bigger ships or being in contact with the aliens. They want to know. That's why they take skin samples. And they want to know what the conditions on board the ship were, what type of atmosphere it was, what kind of germs or diseases were on board, what kind of things that you may have been picked up or touched by. They're looking for all of this. They're trying to get a handle on aliens. It's not so much about you. It is simply about what you know about the aliens, and that's what they're after.
Well, which makes me want to ask, like Margie made a point. She goes, I don't want to be remote viewing something that might belong.
Which is smart, because if you remote view the wrong thing, they will come smack you around.
See? And Bill's like, no, I could remote view right into the ship. I know what's
there.
Well,
you can. No, it's not
do
that
you not get concerned about that?
No. I have remote viewed inside to where I've actually told the being, no, I'm here to find out everything about you. I changed my attitude about some things after I had the negative experiences with the computer, my car, $800 worth of damage on my car. And the manufacturer can't explain how the alternator wire to go to your starter and stuff for the main bus on the vehicle could never explain how half of the wiring, the copper's all gone. It's like it got hit by a bolt of lightning sitting in my garage. Well, I know enough because of my personal engineering experience. I knew exactly what had happened. And then about a day or two later, I did my remote viewing standing outside and went on board a craft. I followed the orb around. A little gray was in front of me. I'm in a 3D environment because they think where they want to go. They visualize it. And I put my hands in the same way. I pushed it out of the way in my mind's eye, took control. And I used to be a pilot, and I put the thing into a spin out of control. I jumped back in my body, and my camera is right on it. And I have all the sequences of it breaking up over my house with other craft coming to its aid. After that, they left me alone. And then the taller light beings approached me more and more in my remote viewing. And then the last one that I did that with, she told me I wasn't supposed to be there. And I said, no, that's when I took control. And I've since taken some photos where I demanded good and evil, is what I call it, to be in the same photo.
Because
things appear.
You three are now public with, yes, we have these photos. Yes, we RV, so Wayne, Margie, do you have any concerns that you guys are being looked at maybe by military?
Oh, I know that I have been for years. I know that my phones have been tapped. All computer systems or Comcast cable system. We caught them 3 times messing with the Comcast system outside.
Wow.
I've seen government vehicles parked outside my house following me on investigations, appearing at investigations. It just goes on. And they even hit me with a directed energy beam weapon a few years ago.
Wow.
And I instantly knew what it was when the person took it out to use it, because I had been warned by someone else who had told me to watch out for these things. And when that person aimed it at me, let me just say that I've been given a few abilities by ETs,
right,
who have, woken some things up in my brain. Let's just leave it at that.
Right. I got you.
So remote viewing being one of them.
Right.
The weapon was activated. I could see and feel the energy coming from across the room, my immediate reaction was to push my energy back at it, to push it back where it came from. And that person was thrown back in their chair, fell back.
Right.
They got up and ran. I have had no incidents since that occurred.
That a girl.
Yeah, and I also I was abducted in 2013 by reptilians and greys on a craft, and I demanded that they let me go telepathically, or I would use my etheric body to go into their control room and crash the ship. And this being surveyed me. I could tell he was looking right through me, looking at my brain to see if I could do it. And he just turns around and says, "Let them go." And they let me and another investigator go after that. I have not seen those beings since.
Wow.
So I think it's a matter of your will and your strength of will, like Bill has done, to take over the situation and say, no, I'm not going to allow these certain things, but I am going to allow contact with benevolent beings.
Well, remember this. If they want to kill you, they can kill you. It's not even, if there's nothing that any of us could do to stop them from killing us if they wanted to. A 7-foot reptilian at 600 pounds would snap you in two like you were nothing. That's not the issue here. And I agree with you. And I tell this to contactees all the time. If you're being taken and you know you're being taken and you're in the middle of abduction and it's not something's going on, you have to be forceful, but you can't be forceful. Like you can't go and you can't holler at them. It has to be from your mind. The only thing the Greys even respect a little bit about us is the few of us that can actually project something back to them as hard as it's being said. If you can't do that, they're going to do whatever they want to you. They're just going to just run all over you. But Greys act like proud parents sometimes when one of us actually do something like that. They'll let you go and they'll be with you. Did you see that? My contactee can do this. Yours can't, but believe it or not, they are actually kind of proud of us when we do stuff like that. But remember this, if they want to kill you, they can. Greys can kill you with a thought, but effortless. Their brain power compared to ours is about the size of an ant compared to a Grey's brain. If they want to kill us, they can kill us. Think of this. They track us through our DNA through thought, not through anything physical, no chips or any of that. And this species is probably close to 1 billion years old. So comparing us to them is not even a comparison. They work for the light beings. They work for the council. They're the guys that keep wars from starting. They're the ones that stop the reptilians and humans for splitting our planet in half. That's what their job is. So if they want to take you out, they can. That's not what they're here for. They are here to help the contactees. Well, I shouldn't say contactees, but they are here to help bring us to the next level. And wiping us out is not helping us go to the next level. Showing us that we have abilities and powers will help us to get to the next level, as long as we understand that they should only be used for certain things. They shouldn't be abused. You'd be surprised how many contactees I've taught to use their empathic abilities to get more money at their job, to get better jobs. I tell people all the time, if you are truly an abductee or contactee and you possess these abilities, you need to learn how to use them, because they can do all kind of wondrous things for your life. When I'm doing business contracts, one of my customers, he said, "You always know how much money I'm willing to spend." I said, "Well, it's not really that big of a thing." And he's like, well, I said, "Don't worry about it." He's like, "But a bunch of my customers have told me that." They're like, "How do you know?" Because I can sense it. And I can push them right up to the edge, and then I stop, because I know if I go any further than that, I'm not going to get the job. But if I stop right there, I'm going to get the job. Now, you could say it was because I've worked with these guys, but a lot of these people I've met them for the first or second time, and I still do it. We tell people all the time, the abilities are ours, use them, but learn to use them correctly and know that you have them. And the other problem is empaths. Unfortunately, if you don't know you're an empath, and you're sending or receiving, you're screwing your life. One, you don't know what you're sending out to people around you. You might be all sad, and then all of a sudden you're looking around you and 10 people are crying and shit. And you're like, what's wrong with these people? Or all of a sudden you walk into a room and you start laughing or crying, but you don't know why, but somebody else in the room is, because you're simply sensing their emotion. You're sharing their emotion. And for untrained people, that can be a nightmare. I mean, if you're already going through an abduction and you're sensing or sending your feelings out to someone else, it's never a good thing. And think about your poor spouse. If you don't know what you're doing, any thought that's in your head where he or she might have aggravated you that day, you may manifest back to them 10 or 15 fold without even knowing you did it. And then you get into a fight, you're like, what the hell just happened here? It's a common thing amongst abductees and contactees. That's why we work with them so closely on develop your abilities, know you have them, and develop them, use them, because it is something the aliens seem to look at when it comes to us. It's probably whatever originally family lines they started 200,000 years ago, or however long goes. Those were probably family lines that showed the most telepathic abilities. That's probably why they started abducting those family lines, and they've been working those lines ever since. But there was first the human aliens, and there were the reptilians, and there were the grays. Now you don't know how many times these are crisscrossed. How many times that a gray contactee is bred with a reptilian contactee who's slept with a human contactee who had babies that slept with a gray contactee, and so on and so forth, till we arrive at the population that's here today. So it's interesting to find out who and what we really are. I'm thinking in a million years or so we're going to be one hell of a species, and I think that's one of the reasons the aliens do keep as close eye on us, because if we have all three of their DNA, which the Rh negative pretty much proves, we have at least one of their DNA, probably more, we're going to be dangerous. Think of the Greys. Think of us with the Greys, reptilians, and humans' abilities all at one time. I mean, we could be dangerous. I mean, really.
Well, it would sure explain why we have crafts everywhere. Why
right. We need to be babysitted a little bit.
Them everywhere.
But they want people like y'all and they want people like y'all and other people like y'all desensitizing people on this. They want people to know that these things are going on, these stuffs are going on, these abilities are out there, and people need to know about them. Because it's not so much about the everyday humans as it is about the people who have been taken. Really and truly, I got to be honest, the aliens probably out of the 6 billion people of non-taken, they kind of look at them as cannon fodder. They're not really interested in them. It's not something they're concerned about. They're only concerned about the people that they're involved with. How many of those people, the number goes, depending on who you ask, anywhere from 100,000 to 2 billion, just depends on who you ask. But that's the people they're interested in. They're not worried about everybody else on this planet. It's not a thing for them. That's the reason that why if you put out a thing and ask contactees to ask the Greys why they won't come public, you know what they're going to tell you is we're already public. Everybody who needs to know knows. They don't care if the government knows. They don't care if the Russians know. They don't care if anybody else on the planet knows. The only people they care about is the people involved in their systems. They're not really worried about everything, because I don't know if they don't think the rest are going to make it, or if there's something else going on that none of us know about, or maybe they've foreseen something in our future that they know about that we don't know about. But they don't really seem to be interested in everybody else. And I've never met anybody who was a one-time contactee ever. If I put somebody under hypnosis who's told me they've been taken once, they've been taken far more than one time. Even Travis Walton, he was amazed when I sat him down and voice dressed him one day. I said, "Let's talk, Travis." I said, "You think you only been taken once?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you know there was a CIA guy on the mountain with you that night?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Did you ever stop to think that the aliens knew you were coming there?" He's like, "Well, how?" I said, "First off, you had a big noisy truck bouncing up and down side the hill with the lights on." I said, "That alone would have known, but they knew you were coming. You never wondered why none of your friends got out the truck but you?" I said, "You never stopped to wonder about any of that?" I said, "You never understood why they handed you off to the CDC at the end of the abduction?" I said, "None of that ever made you wonder what the hell was really going on?" And these were questions no one had ever asked him before. He was kind of in a little panic, is what he was, because no one had ever asked him these questions, and he didn't have the answers to him. And then when I hypnotized him, he found out, well, guess what? There was more than one abduction. And the bad part is that they were abducting him. That means they were taking his kids.
And on that note,
Yeah.
God's sakes.
I always love this.
Go ahead.
It's interesting though, but a lot of the people that I know that prior to this, they had all been near-death experiencers, like myself.
There's a lot of those. I have been too.
And once you have that, you have this ability to a certain degree, at least your ability to go outside of your body at your will, not just in the dream state. But yes, there are people that I know that have been abducted. I personally basically told them I'm off limits. I will contact you and I will initiate the conversation. You will not. That's what I put out there.
But do you think
they kind of
listened?
Say that again?
Do you think they've listened, or do you?
Yes.
And maybe you have a suppressed. Memory.
Yeah, I tell them only tell me if there's things that are going to happen on the planet, and tell me and download the information to me, and I get my hair will stand up like before the earthquakes in Hiroshima. You know,
Right.
where all that happened.
Yes.
I knew the night before, right when it was happening. I even told the wife, because every earthquake that's ever happened that goes above 5.0, I seem to know about it. My energy, I get a download. Like the
So
other
do
day
I.
when one happened in Texas, I had a
Mhm.
download before that happened that evening,
Mm.
the day before.
Right.
It, it's just like
Well,
clockwork.
definitely have a way of awakening abilities, as Margie said.
Uh,
So we're definitely over the top of the hour, and
oh, okay.
I'm well, I could go for a while, but I'm sure it gets late. So
Yeah.
here is the book. So please tell us where everyone can find it. Tell us what you guys have coming up, how people can find you. We can start with Bill and work our way down to Margie
Yeah.
and Wayne.
Yeah. The book is currently available on Amazon,
Mhm.
and that's where I know that it can reside. Either I believe it's by paper though, not electronic format. I recall,
Mhm.
and we've got a new edition being prepared, and I've written my part of it, and I'm looking forward to the second edition. I'll turn it
Excellent.
over to Margie. Hmm.
Yeah, I am working on my part right now. I've been little delayed with a lot of stuff going on, but um, we'll be getting that out before the end of the year for sure. And the new book, um, and we all have more things coming. So other projects we're working on, and so if people want to see the book is published by my company Unx Media.
Mhm.
And if you go to unxmedia.com, you'll see the whole list of books and authors. And we're always looking for new authors that write about paranormal.
I'm glad you
Excellent.
said that, Margie. I will. Saturday we set up Saturday just to sell books. It's all we do on Saturdays. It's all
Oh,
authors. It's all day about authors. There's some artists on there and some authors. That's all we do. We don't do anything else. And it doesn't matter what author, what what kind of author you are. It just matters that you are an author. That's it. And every Saturday for about 2 hours, we bring on authors
It's
because the
called the
writers are
Author's Quill.
yeah, it's called the Author's Quill. So Writers of the Future does 2 hours or does an hour on authors, and then the professional who's a coordinating judge, an illustrator,
Professional artist, yes.
yes, and then we do the Author's Quill. And the reason we do it is one, selling books on the regular shows is hard to do, but for some reason it seems to be a little bit because more and more people are coming to know that's what Saturdays is for. It's for listening to authors, how people became authors, what their books are about, and that they know we're going to be pushing books, buy a book, because our problem is for decades we give away around 2,500 books every year around Christmas time. Every year we get stupid with giving away books, so we've had to kind of pull back on that a little bit and then open up Saturdays so we have places. So yeah, y'all all three invited, by the way, anytime you want to come on. And then I host UFO on the Covers on Wednesdays. I was on just before y'all tonight. Actually, we were talking about why any alien would have anything to do with our stupid governments.
Well,
That's
so we're going to finish off with Wayne. Might as well be here for.
Michelle, the before we go, we ought to mention the name of the new book. It's
Yes.
called. It's going to be called Earth's Unseen Inhabitants.
that sounds
Wow.
interesting.
That's. I've had my portion in for about half a year, but the funny thing is, I keep adding new stuff.
Uh-oh.
yeah. You
I,
can never stop. It's
I know it's a
continual.
pain.
Uh-oh.
I've added at least 4 new cases in that time. But
Right.
at
Yeah.
some point, we just have to say, okay,
Yeah.
we'll go with
Right.
this.
This book is going to be very thick.
Oh my, I think so, because
Yeah.
Wayne just wants to keep going. So
You got the
I love
information. You need to
that,
put it out there.
Yeah.
I love that. I
People
love
need to
that.
learn.
Well,
Because people like us is the only way the everyday layman's going to find out about anything. Even though our government swears they're interested in it, even though I spent all that time in front of Congress be under testimony, they still are not wanting to share anything with us. they don't want to tell us anything unless you got friends in places. It's almost like they just want to try to hoard whatever they can find. I guess maybe they don't want stuff to happen like the microchip, that we all got a free microchip out of the deal or something. I don't know what it is, but they really and truly don't seem to want everybody on the planet to know that there probably is life out there, and it's definitely visiting this planet. For some reason, and I don't think any governments want anybody to know. So here's one for y'all. So they asked Xi Jinping the other day about aliens, the Chinese president. He said, what do you know about aliens? He said, you would have to ask the Americans about that. That's a quote, by the way.
Wow.
That is the president of China said that.
Wow. Americans are in control of that.
He said, you need to ask the Americans. He said, I'm not saying, he didn't say they didn't exist or anything. He said, you just need to ask the Americans. And Putin kind of elated to the same thing when he was asked. Putin was like, well, we don't have as much information as other countries on the planet do. And he went the quotations. I was laughing. I knew right who he was talking
have
about.
A lot of information.
So they were just saying, you know, if you
Their
want to get down,
scientists were calling ET to them back in the 80s before the whole CE5 thing, because we don't have to go to space. We know how to bring them here.
Well, they wanted to hear it. I mean, they are here.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to call it a night. This has been fantastic. And Bill, Wayne, Margie, thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about your book, your stories, sharing your photos. I think people can definitely, it sounds like it's something simple to do. Get out there, essentially, take videos, take photos, look at old photos and polarize them. So if you can't get a lens, especially if you're using camera phones, that's a little bit harder. But Bill, you're saying just take an old sunglass lens, put it over top.
Yep.
So there's no reason now for people not to try this. It's
I
easy.
agree. They should get out there and try it.
Right?
Right.
All right.
And post on the Fast Movers Facebook so we can see it.
That's right.
There we go. Yes.
And that might save them for spending $5,000 on one of them cameras, one of those night shots. Yeah. You know, speaking of that, before we break this up, I was in Sedona, Arizona a couple of years back, and I stopped by. I got some friends that live down there, so I stopped by, and they said, "Well, let's go out. Let's take the 3D equipment, and go out tonight and do some sky watching," because I've been hearing for years how they see all this stuff in the sky down there. So I went out with two different groups, and well, I will tell you, we seen some stuff in the sky. I don't know if they were aliens, but we definitely seen something in the sky. I'm not 100% sure what it is. And being Sedona is so close to Area 51, 52, 53, 54, and 55, I'm not 100% sure that what we were seeing didn't, sort of, kind of belong to us, maybe. I mean, I don't want to rule out that
Sedona is a magical place with a huge ass vortex.
It's a beautiful
anything
place.
Is possible.
It is. It's a beautiful place, and they got 5 vortexes there. Right. Food is outrageously expensive. Hotels are outrageously expensive. But
jump into the portal. That's
a good chunk, a good half of the paranormal and New Age community live there. So if you're interested, you can go out there. But it was just weird. I mean, I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest with you. I think I was just expecting to see more or something bigger, but I did see a lot of weird stuff. Christopher, my friend Melinda Leslie still lives there. She does it too. I didn't go out with her that night because she wasn't around, but y'all go stop by and see her, and she'll take y'all out on the tour. The first, let's go see,
All right. And with that, we're going to say good night and thank you for joining us, Bill, Wayne, and Margie.
Well, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
I had a great time. Y'all were great.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
And to everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Thanks to everybody in chat. We appreciate you all so very much. Tomorrow night, we will welcome a fellow Canadian, Morgan Knudsen, who most paranormal enthusiasts, I'm tongue-tied tonight, will know her from Haunted Hospital's Paranormal 911, and we're going to be talking everything paranormal. So tune in, and thank you for joining us, and good night.
Good night.
Good night, people of Earth.